Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We are proceeding to understand the first and foremost of the siddhis, which is the result of samadhi that the yogi gets. And that is called atita anagata jnanam. Now, when we come to this sutra, we also understand why Patanjali mentioned the Parinaama traya before this. The Parinaama vaada, Parinaama siddhanta is so important for Sankhya, in the sense Sankhya philosophy, and Sankhya in the sense wisdom. That is the real wisdom. That is the Adhyatmic wisdom, spiritual wisdom. That the Adhyatmic practices makes one think about not just the present. Because today we are made to hear this often, that you should be in present. All the time you should be in present. And then people try to find lots of solutions to be in present rather than going to the past and going to the future. So for common man it is quite handy advice that one should be in present, not drift into past and drift into future. But Adhyatmic wisdom makes the seeker circumspect. A very rational person will not be circumspect. He has more kind of focus in his intellectual processes, and he goes for focus. And that's why the past and future escape his vision. But those who have spiritual wisdom, they are more circumspect. And that's why their consideration is totally different. If you are a very rationalistic person, and then if you look at a person and look at a condition and look at a thing as it is there, the real-time knowledge, what can be called as real-time knowledge about how the thing is there and then, knowledge on as-is basis, how something is there at that particular moment. Then naturally the thought process based on being very, very rational person, very practical minded person is one. And this is not propitious to spiritual process. Because there is no necessity to be inferring, and the inference is also quite limited in range. You will infer based on as-is basis of something that is at sight. And therefore we are quite mundane people, worldly people. In our thought process we never have this view that I am eternal person. I have been there from time without beginning before my birth. And we don't consider that I am going to exist almost time without end after my death. We have only perspective of our lifetime as if we are existent for only a lifetime, and metaphysics tells us that it is not true. We have been timeless people. We have been timeless beings. Howsoever we might be rich in our thought, there is nothing thought material with regards to our past existences. And we do not also infer that we are going to exist life after life after life. And that also doesn't come in our thought matter. We only consider that we are going to exist for our lifetime. We never existed before our lifetime, nor are we going to exist after our lifetime. And therefore we can understand what is our thought content, thought culture, thought material, and thought process. But Adhyatmic disposition and Adhyatmic inclination and Adhyatmic gravitational forces makes one always have at the back of the mind that I have existed before my birth and I am going to exist after my death. So this will definitely change the outlook in the life. Even it is practical mindedness for a philosopher, it would be a different practical mindedness than that of a materialistic person who believes that I exist only for a lifetime. So, Adhyatma changes the whole view of life, knowing that we have endless past and we have also perhaps endless future. And only the liberation can put a seal on our future. Without liberation, our future is not sealed. So, the very thought content, thought process, thought culture is different for a philosophical person. He is not practical minded from the point of view of a very practical minded person of the worldly realm. What is practical mindedness for us? The first tenet for our practical mindedness is that I did not exist before my birth and I am not going to exist after my death. And this is the fundamental thing that is there in our practical mindedness. And now that is untrue. It is not true in case of anyone that one did not have endless past or beginningless past, nor will have a long future. Unless one is in pursuit of liberation and unless one is going to get liberated. Otherwise our future is also endless. So this makes the person magnanimous, open-minded. He always looks at the life with a wide-angle lens. Panoramic view of the life is taken rather than a close-up of life. And we are all used to close-up of life. We are fascinated to have close-up of life. Close-up of view of life. And never a panoramic view, and once in a while we have it. Particularly, imagine that you are on a tower top. You are on a hilltop. And then you are watching the huge landscape in front of you, which extends up to horizon. Because those who are on a ground level will never see horizon. If you get out of the tower top, then you will see the horizon. And then what is at sight for vision up to horizon is quite huge. And that is why for lofty mindedness, one is advised to go onto a tower top or hilltop and have that view. This will certainly not make the mind petty. Or to be at the seashore looking at the expanse of the sea up to horizon also widens the mind. And that is why such advices are there, that when the mind is vexed and tormented and caught in some time frame, space frame, time frame, get into the seashore, sit at the seashore, or get onto the tower top and hilltop. So that certainly opens out the vision. So philosophers are on high pedestal of consciousness, and they have wide angle lens to their eyes, and therefore lots of things come within their purview. Unlike the case of a man who is standing on the ground level, standing on the floor and try to having the vision. We'll have to turn our head 180 degrees, yet how much will we sight? But if you get onto the tower top and turn your head 180 degrees, how much can you sight? So, those who are on philosophical pedestal in their consciousness are definitely become magnanimous, open-minded, wide-minded. And by the sadhana in Adhyatma, by way of satsanga, sadhana sangha, shastra sangha, the views are wider. So, Adhyatmic seeker has always a wider view of life, and therefore the petty-mindedness is kept at bay. So, as it is, the yogi now, who is already gone a long way in Adhyatmic path, naturally has this wide angle lens to his mind and intelligence that happens by Adhyatmic dharana, Adhyatmic sadhana, satsanga, sadhana sangha, shastra sangha, satvik ahar, vihar, achar, vichar, jnana sadhana, vairagya sadhana, yoga sadhana, japa sadhana, nama sadhana, jnana sadhana, karma sadhana, bhakti sadhana, Sankhya yoga, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, dhyana yoga. It opens out the vision for the mind. So, as I have many times said, that in yoga you don't need focused mind, you need to be circumspect. And this circumspection becomes the very nature of one who is an Adhyatma. Rather than having a focus. Focus will be used functionally as and when needed. But generally, there will be circumspect view of the world around us. And one will be circumspect. So as it is, yogi is already circumspect. And therefore, greater realm of parinamas come as thought content in his mind. See, when we look at the rose, we just look at the rose and we appreciate the rose. But little inquisitive mind, a scientist mind, will think from where the rose has come. So how far the scientist will go? He will go to the biological horizon, because that's a life form. A flower is a life form. Rose is a life form. He won't go beyond. But the metaphysicist goes beyond. Because the botanist and biologist will say that flower, rose has come from a seed, which is seed of rose plant. He doesn't go beyond, but metaphysicist goes beyond. So, as it is, a student of yoga, follower of yoga, practitioner of yoga, practitioner of Adhyatma has this always long-sightedness in his intelligence, deep-sightedness in his intelligence. So, and that is why the wiser people always consider the parinamas, unlike the scientists who just consider the cause and effect. An entire science is based on cause and effect relationship, thorough understanding of cause and effect relationship, deep insight into the cause and deep insight into effects. But philosophers consider a third factor, that is consequence. Cause, effect and consequence. Because philosophers are humane in nature. Scientists are not humane in natures, in their natures. And that's why they can be scientists. So they are just obsessed with cause and effect relationship. And with that they have made huge strides in the scientific world. But the shortfall is that they are not bothered about consequences. The scientific development has taken place in the last 300-400 years with the advent of Industrial Revolution, which took place some centuries back. A lot of strides have been made, and we have evolved and developed in technology, in science and technology. But nowhere that science and technology consider the consequences, and therefore we know where we have landed. And it is in recent times that we are bothered about environment. The subject of environmentology, ecology, they have gained importance because now the consequences are great afflictions to us. Otherwise science was boon, technology was a boon. We never understood until the present times, but now we understand the bane of the scientific development that we made without evolving our thought culture and mind culture. Anyway, so the Parinaama traya is so fundamental to yogi. Yogi is mind culture, yogi is thought culture, yogi is thought process, thought content. So therefore, the Parinaama traya, which gives him the magnanimity, vast view of life, which embraces the reality. Unless you have a vast view, you cannot embrace reality of life. And that's why the Parinaama Siddhanta that Patanjali mentioned came immediately after mentioning the Samadhi Parinama, Nirodha Parinam, Samadhi Parinam, Ekagrata Parinam, the Dharana Dhyan Samadhi Parinama of the Chitta. Because the Samadhi is going to give all dimensional, not view but revelation or realization, intuitive realization. In our knowledge process, many times we repent after a while. Oh, I did not consider this dimension. I did not consider this perspective. Although we made quite a vehement endeavor in gaining knowledge in the realm, yet we realize that we missed a dimension, we missed a perspective. But the philosopher who is so Parinaama minded, it doesn't happen to him like that. Philosophers will not lose a particular dimension to be repenting after some time. The scientists will have that. They will repent after some time that I did not consider this. I will just give you one example for you to understand what I am trying to say. When the first ever automobile was invented, so it was a great progress for mankind. A machine was created, automobile was created, the four-wheeler was created. But after these about 70, 80, 90 years of automobiles running all over the planet, now we have realized that there is irreparable loss to atmosphere because of the emission. The automobile engineers never thought of any emission that is created by the vehicle, by the combustion. They never thought about it. They created an exhaust pipe behind to leave the pollution behind the car. And now we understand how much carbon we have produced because of automobiles and what has happened to ozone layer in the atmosphere, which is irreparable loss. Anyway, the science has created this awareness today after nearly 70, 80, 90, 100 years that we have spoiled the nature. We have been predators of nature. And now it is other way around, that the nature is becoming predator and we are becoming preys. We are becoming prey animals. That nature is taking its toll now. Anyway, so that's what the technology has done. It is because consequence is never cited in scientific paradigm. They don't bother about the consequence. Atom bomb was invented just a couple of years before the Hiroshima-Nagasaki episode. But it never occurred to their mind that nuclear power, atomic research, atomic energy, atomic research, atomic sciences, atomic technology would be so devastating. In no time, there was Nagasaki-Hiroshima episode in the Second World War in 1945. The scientists did not envisage the consequence of what they are inventing and what they are discovering. Now we know how dangerously, precariously the life is on the planet because of nuclear science. So anyway, point is, consequences are not considered in scientific process and progress. But philosophers do consider that. And that's why they will foresee the future. When the nuclear scientists were working on the formula for atom bomb, never thought that it would be dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But then it happened. Just in few years after it was discovered that atom bomb can be there with nuclear science development. So that's why the philosophers, the yogis are in the habit of considering the consequences, which is only possible because of wide angle lens to their intelligence, wide angle lens to their mind, wide angle lens to their thought process, and therefore the thought content is also different. So the samadhi means all dimensional view, if I may say so, which is not a view, but all dimensional, multi-dimensional, omnidimensional knowledge is samadhi knowledge. Therefore, it cannot exclude the realm of the past and realm of the future. All dimensional knowledge about the rose, if you recall, I had said that it is going back retrospectively from where the rose came. For us it came from plant came from seed, etc. But then they go back. and they go to all the Sankhya principles, avyakta, mahat, ahankar, tanmatra, mahabhuta, and then you get the rose. And the rose, when it is going to become latent, the rose is going to become sand for us. But then the sand is going to go in a reversal process back to nominal avyakta. So we know the aspect of prasava and pratiprasava in Sankhya wisdom. So the rose comes from avyakta nominal, and the rose ultimately goes back to avyakta nominal, primordial matter, reference to primordial matter. That's a complete view of rose. That is omnidimensional experience of rose, which we don't get it. We will see the rose as it is there and then. We can only imagine now what would happen to rose after 6, 8, 10, 15, 20, 100 hours. That it would dry out. And our knowledge retrospectively doesn't go beyond seed. Because from seed comes plant, and from plant comes seed, flower. So we can't go retrospectively back to seed form, and prospectively we cannot go beyond the dry lotus, which perhaps going to become again earth, which is going to become sand. So that's the limited view that we have. But yogi has this view because samadhi is all dimensional, and therefore the yogi, it is of foremost and primary importance that he gets this siddhi at the first instance. That is why this siddhi gets mentioned first. Other than any other siddhi which will be coming in the third chapter, about 30-35 siddhis will be coming, a question should be asked, why this siddhi has come in the first place? Because this has come because Parinaama was explained, Dharma Lakshana Avastha Parinaama was explained, and Dharma Lakshana Avastha Parinaama is important for all dimensional view of object, of knowledge. So therefore, that's the logic behind why Parinaama Siddhanta was explained immediately after Samadhi modification of Chitta was mentioned by of Trivida Parinamas, Vitthana, Nirodha Samskar, generating Nirodha Parinam, and then Samadhi Parinam, and then Ekagrata Parinam, which is actual Samadhi, which gives all dimensional view of the support, of the locus of Samadhi, object of Samadhi. And therefore it cannot be overlooking Atita and Anagata Jnanam. Samadhi is not only knowledge of the Vartamana, present, but Atita Anagata, absolutely from Avyakta to Avyakta. And that is why after Samadhi, psychology was described, which gives the yogi all dimensional view, omnidimensional view. It is Samadhi experience. The Parinaama, Atita, Anagata Parinamas are circumscribed in such vision, and therefore the Parinaama Siddhanta got discussed immediately after Samadhi was mentioned, and therefore the first Siddhi is Atita Anagata Jnanam. This is the wide angle lens, right from the origin of the object to terminal condition of the object, would only give omnidimensional view. And therefore the first place in Siddhis is given to Atita Anagata Jnanam. How does it come about? Parinaama traya samyamat. So therefore it tells us that by samyama, that is accomplished process of dharana, dhyan, samadhi, would bequeath atita anagata jnanam, which is the knowledge of spiritually evolved person. Unlike we practical minded worldly people, our knowledge is only with respect to present, and we don't want to even think about the past and future. And that's why we have a miserable life. We do not go to history of the knowledge that comes to us about a person or about a thing, nor we go into the future of it. We neither can go. We have no scope to go beyond a limit given by our inferences and extrapolations. So if we go to past and future of something at sight, it is by extrapolation and by our intellectual process. And that is grossly limited, greatly limited in mortal conditions of a human being. Anyway, Parinaama traya samyamat atita anagata jnanam. Why this has come as the first siddhi in the text of yoga, this is the logic behind it. This is the reasoning behind it. And it's not that he has picked up one of the siddhis and mentioned in the beginning. He doesn't pick up the siddhis at random and discuss the siddhis. There is some order. It is because of the metaphysical gravity on Patanjali. There is definitely a logical order in the siddhis that he mentions. And why he mentions this siddhi for the first time as a first siddhi, foremost siddhi, is something because of the Adhyatmic gravity that is so strongly working on a yogi, in a yogi. Anyway, in the previous topic we discussed the Parinaama traya, Dharma Lakshana Avastha Parinaama traya. Any visible object has history, and metaphysicists tell us that the history goes back to not just couple of decades and couple of centuries and couple of millennia, but the history goes back to kalpa. So if you are citing a rose, the rose has been existing in some form or the other until today we are citing it as a rose. It has gone through so many manifestations, and all that got triggered at the launch of kalpa, the day of Brahma. So it extends to that kalpa arambha. So if you cite a rose today on a plant or in your hands, get to know that it has a history of nearly 1950 million years. That was the kalparambha. Nearly approximately 1900 plus years, our kalpa called Shveta Varaha Kalpa got launched. And everything has the history up to that. May that be lotus, may that be rose, may that be elephant, may that be a cow, may that be a person, may that be a rock, may that be a diamond, jewel. It has history of kalpa, kalparambha. This is what the metaphysicists tell us. And how long will be the future prospectively? It will again exist in some form or the other until kalpanta. When is the kalpanta going to take place? One kalpa spans 8,640 million years, of which 1,930 odd is gone by, and remainder is still there. So nearly another 6,000 million years go until the kalpanta takes place. Coincidentally, the astronomers tell us that the sun has another 6,000 years to go. Then the sun will be no more. So the sun's lifespan is said to be 10,000 million years, of which 4,500 years are over, so another about 6,000 million years remaining, 5,500 plus remaining. So incidentally, astrophysicists, astronomers also tell us about it. It is in some million years. So that rose, which was example taken, has already history of nearly 2,000 million years. In some form or the other it did exist. And now it has another journey of 5,500 to 6,000 million years to go until there will be that grand deluge, complete dissolution at the end of the kalpanta. After the end of those 8,640 years, the kalpa would be ending, and there will be a long repose, everything in nominal matter, avyakta avastha, for another 4,320 million years, which is a night. So, we are in the day of Brahma, which is going to exist for 4,320 million years, of which nearly 2,000 million years is over. And then we will be having avyakta avastha, and that rose would be in avyakta avastha. It came from avyakta avastha, it will go back to avyakta avastha. It will go to nominal phase as it came from nominal phase. Nominal matter, primordial matter to primordial matter is the journey of all that is material in the universe. So kalparambha to kalpanta, this concept should be understood. The day and night concept that is given in the chronology by Vedic Shastras is to be understood. A kalpa lasts for 8,640 million years, of which 4,320 million years is the daytime and 4,320 million years is the night time, summing up to 8,640 million years. So the rose, the example that we had, would be existing for 4,320 million years. We all will be existing in some form or the other for 4,320 million years, of which nearly 2,000 million years are over. And then we will be absorbed into nominal matter. And we all came from nominal matter and we are heading towards nominal matter. The escape is only liberation. So, you can understand the future, realm of future and realm of past for anything that you cite. In our practicality of life, do we say something is in front of me is eternal? You see a rose on the plant, you see a mango on the tree, do you say it is eternal? You know that it is going to last for just a day or two or a couple of days. Nothing is eternal. Everything is ephemeral. Yes, the forms are ephemeral. But everything will remain in some form or the other. Nothing will give up the form until the final deluge of kalpanta. So this is the metaphysical view which is strongly embedded in yogi's mind. And therefore there is anagata lakshana and vartamana lakshana, atita lakshana for everything at sight. Now, strangely, when we say somebody is omniscient, what is omniscience? One who knows the past and future is deemed to be omniscient person. Who tells you about your past and tells you about your future, you say he is sarvagnya, he is sarvagnani, he is omniscient. That is the major characteristic. That is trikala jnana, knowledge of all the three realms of time, the present, the future, as well as the past. That is called trikala jnana. So trikala jnana is considered to be omniscience. Now what is trikala jnana? It is knowledge of atita, anagata, vartamana. Or vartamana jnana along with atita and anagata. So that is what we are going to consider in this sutra. So the first siddhi sutra, the vibhuti pada, is thus: by samyama on Parinaama traya, the yogi gets atita, anagata, jnanam, that is sarvagnyata, potential for sarvagnyata and sarvagnyata itself. So that is what this sutra is. Now, before we go into the sutra, because we were just at the gate of this sutra and we had so much to comprehend about the sutra at the gate. Now let us cross the gate and go beyond and try to understand what is the purport of the sutra, content of the sutra, import of the sutra, significance of the sutra, and the siddhi. But that is from next time. Enough for the time being. Namaskar all of you.